I think the most important decision is, do you need the program or not? And that's the big stepping point for a brand, whether to make that leap into the expense that comes around and complications and the time it's involved in building that loyalty program. When we think about loyalty, we just go back to two really simple core principles, which is more customers spending more, and that's what we're trying to achieve. And therefore, with loyalty, you can employ a lot of those mechanics that come with a loyalty program without necessarily having that loyalty program itself.
Welcome to the Ecommerce Toolbox Expert Perspectives, a podcast by Noibu, where we explore the elite strategies and cutting-edge insights with our expert guests. Get ready to propel your e-commerce business to the next level.
Welcome to another episode of the Ecommerce Toolbox Experts Perspective. Joining us today, we have a marketing expert. Welcome, Nicholas Greatrex, all the way over from the UK.
Hey, thank you. Thanks for inviting me on the podcast.
Yeah, no worries. We always like to start off, took a look at your LinkedIn ahead of the call today, saw your background. You've been in various different organizations. Now you're in an executive role at a pretty big company from a revenue standpoint. So maybe talk to us a bit about your career journey and how you ended up as the CMO at TFG.
Yeah, I had quite a journey to get here. So I started off within the charity sector for the first part of my career. And then kind of cut my teeth in marketing, in digital marketing, working for a TV shopping channel that was both in the UK and actually in the States too. There I kind of got to grips with, we brought digital marketing in-house, and I built an insights and the CRM team from there. And that's where I kind of got the bug for data-driven marketing and loyalty, and using that to combine the marketing space of the e-com space. And then worked with that for a number of brands in the UK with their loyalty programs, and with a few overseas too. And I did that B2B for a while, agency, before coming to TFG just over 3 years ago. And then my role at TFG is all about driving those online sales, looking after the e-commerce team with the marketing, digital marketing, CRM and loyalty, all based off this data and insights that we have a great insight team at TFG. And that's a short of how I got here today.
Love it. So you guys have 4 brands, 24 different countries.
Yeah.
How do you deal with conversion across channel, across geo? Like, how are you looking at all of those things on a consistent basis to really formulate decisions?
Well, I think the conversion rates can always be tricky to kind of track and to tell, and therefore we try and boil it right back down into how much are we spending and what are we getting back in terms of revenue. So we're looking less so at kind of the session conversion rate, more looking towards the user. So what we've seen is with our high loyal customers that they could be coming back 5 times before they want to make a purchase. So whereas their conversion rate for us, this is the loyal customers, might be quite high at 5%. If they're coming back 5 times, actually the user conversion rate is more like 25%. And therefore, looking there at the session is and the conversion rate within the session is good for us to get guidance over things like personalization. But what we're fundamentally looking at is what's our investment and then what's that return.
Makes sense. Do you have any tactical things? And we don't need to start naming tools, but like how, I know attribution and just understanding in marketing is the technical aspect of it is such a pain. I mean, that would explain why there's a million MarTech companies as well. Like, what are some of the tactics that you did? Like, let's say someone's coming into multi-brand, multi-country, and they're kind of just like, well, when I talk to the Germany team, they tell me this is the conversion rate. And when I talk to the HQ, it's this. And like, how have you reconciled that and to be able to really have clarity in decision?
Well, I think that's where it just comes back to kind of, it's almost like a triangle there. You've got how much we're investing in terms of our advertising revenue. You've got how much we're coming back in terms of revenue through the site. And that will really tell us that indicator. So if those numbers are kind of broadly aligned and we know what we're doing with our marketing investment, we can see what that return is. And I think the third part of that triangle, the really important part is the customer and the customer database. So we can track that new customer acquisition, but we can also see within those customers how many are coming back for a second and third time. And that's where CRM is really, really powerful. So the customer data platform that we use is really integral to that. It tracks the customers on the site too. So we can see people who are clicking through and then buying through. I think looking to just even those standard out of the box tools, Google, even with moving to GA4, still gives you that opportunity to look at that user conversion rate and what the user's doing. And but fundamentally, if you're tracking that customer database and you're looking at how often those customers are buying within that database, and how many new customers you're acquiring, coupling that with the visits to the website, I think you start to build a pretty decent picture. We try not to get too hung up on what that conversion rate is, because if we are pushing a whole load of new customers through the site, we're driving that number down. And the example I gave you before about the high level customers, they're visiting 5 times. And again, that might, if we get them to read content and come back and get engaged with the brand, that's going to be pushing our conversion rate down too. So I think it's the context is everything, and what you're trying to achieve. So for us, using that customer data platform and tracking the customers through on the site and then starting to look at the conversion rate by user group. So we split it really simply into customers we've not seen before, new customers in 60 days, and then the low, medium, or high value. And once we've grouped them into those areas, obviously looking at lapse where we can too, we start to get a good indication of what a conversion rate should be within that customer group, and then starting to see how we can improve those metrics.
Makes a ton of sense. Curious from your perspective, for companies that own multiple brands, do you think that you should actually centralize and have one database so that you could leverage the purchase made on brand X to actually help with brand Y in the sense of personalization or just in general marketing?
Well, I mean, it's a great question, especially for a group like TFG, which has 3 fashion brands, all operating more or less in pretty much the same space. It's all in that premium women's wear fashion. It's all aimed at a similar demographic. There's a bit of divergence between the brands, but there's a lot of overlap within there. And we've had plenty of discussions about doing that and the positives and negatives. And we've decided to stay away from that and keep that separate for now, because those brands might have a small overlap or a big overlap, but there are lots of other competitors in the market that are also competing for that space. And I think we might be able to get a piece of insights to say, well, okay, this customer who's in market is transacted with another one of the sister brands, and therefore perhaps the opportunity is gone and we can pull back from the marketing. But it starts, we think it would take us on a journey where we start competing within against each other, rather than saying, well, what's the objective of each of those brands and how can we best move forward towards it? We haven't got to the point yet where we've started to try and combine those databases, just because it's quite complicated to do. But I'm sure at some point we'll probably look at running some tests where we just hard code the data, just have a quick look about what that does look like for us.
No, it makes sense. If you look at I read the prospectus of solo brands when they went public, and a lot of these, this is obviously COVID era, a lot of the thesis on the brand roll up was what we just mentioned here. If you have 500,000 customers and I have 500,000 and the other brand has 500,000, they're not all the same customer, right? So being able to kind of leverage some of the past experiences or just even having the data could grow the additional brands. But no, it's interesting to hear your perspective on that. Getting into personalization per brand, how are you looking at personalization in terms of what does actually personalization mean to you? Because this is something that IBM Watson was kind of pitching 15 to 20 years ago.
Exactly, yeah.
You know what I mean? So what does it mean now to you tactically, and how are you actually thinking about that when it comes to how you're displaying your ads and building loyalty programs? Because it sounds like you're all about the LTV, which makes sense. You're less about, hey, it's not a one-time purchase. You're not selling a mattress where you, let's be honest, you'll probably be gone by the business by the time the person buys another mattress, right? You're looking for more frequency and loyalty. So yeah, maybe talk to us a bit about what does personalization mean to you? How do you actually employ it and build like repeat customer bases?
Yeah, well, look, simply personalization to me means relevancy, and it's just about making what we are showing the customer and when we're showing it to the customer relevant. And that's what we mean by personalization. And when we're trying to personalize something to somebody, that's what we're trying to do. And you quickly run into trouble about trying to over-assume or over-predict what that customer is trying to do. So it's about prioritizing and pushing the things that we think are most relevant to the top, rather than trying to take somebody down a particular path. So if you're looking at at the website, when it's looking at the listings, if somebody's bought that product before, we probably don't want to put that in the top spot. But we might want to put use technology to be able to put maybe products at a similar size or similar style, or with color patterns and color palettes that could go with that, to make it something that would lean more towards what that customer's interested in. If they like florals, then chances are they'll buy florals again. And then using that kind of personalization to make it relevant without assuming and taking it too far, because I think that's often where we trip up, is that we either go down too much of a pigeonhole and just look at, this is just, or so they've looked at, in our world, it could be an outfit for an occasion, and then that's all that they see. And you could end up missing out on opportunities for somebody wanting to see what other categories are on offer and other styles. So I think personalization takes us into that area, but try and remove the friction too. We've had some successful trials with our UX teams around, if somebody selects a size, then just making that size sticky as they go through the site. So pre-selecting it on the product page, or when they go onto a different category page, prioritizing the products through the algorithms with those sizes in stock to appear at the top of the page. Or even in actually doing some tests where we pre-select that filter with that particular size, so that the customer will only see things that they can buy that will fit them. So that's what we mean by personalization. And then the other flip side of that is in the marketing space, is that we're looking at making our emails as dynamic as possible, using those content slots to show them messages if they're a lapsed customer, rather than breaking out trigger emails into different separate emails to integrate them all into the same message. So using those different slots to be able to show what a customer is, what they've done in before, perhaps they're looking at the moment, to make that communication tailored for them, both in terms of frequency and content. And one of the big step forwards that we've kind of done over the last few years is to really integrate that marketing journey with the e-com journey. Knowing if a customer is interacting with email content is useful for the e-com teams, and likewise, if you've got somebody browsing the site and looking at certain areas, making sure that is fully in tune with what the marketing teams are doing, whether that's digital marketing or within CRM.
Nick, I actually want to go back to something you just said. I think you just gave me the most first principles answer on personalization I've ever heard. I think the very simplistic, and I'm shocked that it's not done today. And I know it's not done because when I shop online, like, I select my size, and then I'm like, I finally find something I like, and then my size is not in stock.
Yeah.
And that's just so like basic. And if you've done like personalized shopping in store, like, they're not going to show you something that they don't have your size of, right? So like that, the fact that you guys are starting with that and then layering on top, I think are just really, really intelligent, because to your point, like, the algorithm can do a great job at showing plurals and this and that and correlating it to how they're feeling. But like at the end of the day, if they don't have their size or it's not shippable to your country or location, it's all a wasted effort. So, and it actually would probably more frustrate the user than anything else. But no, that was a really, really good answer.
It frustrates the user, and like that's, it's especially important if you're petite or if you're plus size, and being able, because the range is always much more constrained for those customers, and I think we, like many companies, will put up individual categories in that area, but just making sure that the whole website is trained to make that journey easy for customers is really key.
No, I love it. And moving over to obviously being able to do those types of experiences, talk to us a bit from a high level, like what's a loyalty program? How have you launched them? And then like maybe some high level KPIs. Let's say that there's someone in a similar position to you. They're thinking of launching one. They don't know.
Yeah.
Launching an app might be 2022. Like maybe talk to us a bit about a loyalty program and how to actually drive value from them.
Well, the thing that most important decision is, do you need the program or not? And that's the big stepping point for a brand, whether to make that leap into the expense that comes around and the complications and the time that's involved in building that loyalty program. When we think about loyalty, we just go back to two really simple core principles, which is more customers spending more, and that's what we're trying to achieve. And therefore, with loyalty, you can employ a lot of those mechanics that come with a loyalty program without necessarily having that loyalty program itself. So we can offer customers through the CRM, or even actually if we've got the information on the websites, to be able to give regular customers or customers on our database early access to new products or previews to promotions. And that's been incredibly successful to us, to be able to, you can use that through digital marketing too, to be able to say, to those customers who you are trying to either make more loyal or bring them into new categories or just to get them to buy again. It's definitely part of our strategy to get customers signed up to CRM. If you sign up, you get these loyalty mechanics, which are ones I've just, early access to products and those promo previews are a key one. Any kind of value add in terms of shipping and is also something that customers really appreciate. And you can add in a lot of those loyalty mechanics without necessarily having the program. And I think for me, what I found is where you can go a long way with that. But then where you make that decision to go into that loyalty scheme boils down to what is the frequency of that customer base. And if that customer base is only buying from your brands, and it's careful to pull out the customer segmentation here just to make sure you're not looking at an average. There's a big enough group of customers who are buying at least 6 to 9 times a year with yourselves. If there isn't a big group of that customer with that kind of frequency threshold, you probably aren't going to get a return on investment for your loyalty program. And that can be a points program, and it could be something just simply with a card. And therefore, I think that people might jump into that because you do get that benefit of having that physical card if you're going to go down that route, but actually the sense of belonging is being part of that scheme. And there's a really good psychological motivator to come back to the brand. But there's a big cost associated with it. And in your example earlier, Kailin, on mattresses is the great, so that's an example of a purchase that isn't really worth becoming part of a club. You might think slightly differently about a car, which might have a longer cycle because of the price point. But weighing up what the value of that customer is and the frequency of that customer is super important before you go down any kind of loyalty scheme.
No, it makes sense. And as we look to wrap up, Nick, quickest answer as possible on your side, how do you think the improvements of generative AI will impact personalization, loyalty programs? Quick fire answer.
They'll revolutionize it because they'll be able to split it in a way that we as humans are not able to put it into. So the amount of different variations you can get from what AI will give us and the relevancy it will make, and some of those, removing some of those obvious areas where we get it wrong at the moment will completely change the way that we'll see personalization and relevancy of what we get on our websites and in our inboxes.
Love it. Nick, this was a phenomenal episode. Learned a lot about marketing. Congrats on all the success in your career. And we're really, really excited to release this episode. Thanks again.
Great. Perfect. Thank you.
The e-commerce toolbox expert perspectives is brought to you by Noibu. To find out more about Noibu and how we can help you debug your e-commerce site and rocket your revenue, visit www.noibu.com. That's Noibu.com. And then make sure to search for the e-commerce toolbox expert perspectives on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or anywhere else podcasts are found, and click subscribe so you don't miss out on any future episodes. On behalf of the team here at Noibu, thanks for listening.